Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Collins, and all the members. Before I had the great honor of being a counsel for this committee, my young son asked me a question.
Hey, sir, are you my daddy?
Like many questions by young children, it had a certain clarity, but it was hard to answer.
You can't turn a hoe into a housewife.
You are not the father.
Are you my daddy?
Now, this question of whether a president engaged in abuse of power came up before, when this Congress considered the impeachment of President Nixon. And after action was taken, President Nixon famously said, if the president does it, it is not illegal. And this body rejected that because that's not so. That goes directly contrary to what the founder said. But President Trump has said the same thing.
Warning! Warning! Bullshitter alert! Bullshitter alert! Warning!
Don't bullshit a bullshitter.
President Trump has said the same thing in responding to the prior investigation by Department of Justice and defending his conduct. Here's what he said.
Then I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president.
That he has the right to do whatever he wants as president. That is as wrong as when President Nixon said a similar thing.
I'm sure I'm not supposed to, but sorry, we're breaking protocol here.
I didn't see that. You're always good friends.
That's all right. That's the good thing about being president. I can do whatever I want.
Give me 40 million. Give me unlimited FBI, unlimited interviews, unlimited. They interviewed 500 people. Listen to this, 2,500 subpoenas. They did everything. Their collusion, no collusion. They have no collusion. Then I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president, but I don't even talk about that because they did a report and there was no obstruction. After looking at it, our great Attorney General read it. He's a total professional. He said, there's nothing here, there's no obstruction.
That he has the right to do whatever he wants as president. That is as wrong as when President Nixon said a similar thing.
Which gets to the final and most pernicious of the arguments that we have heard in the president's defense. That the president can do whatever he wants under Article 2, including get foreigners involved in our elections, and we should just, to quote the president's chief of staff, get over it.
Look, Article 2, I would be allowed to fire Robert Mueller. There was not, assuming I did all of the things I said I want to fire him. Number one, I didn't. He wasn't fired. Okay, number one, very importantly. But more importantly, Article 2 allows me to do whatever I want. Article 2 would have allowed me to fire him.
So it sounds
but
like
I wasn't going to fire. You know why? Because I watched Richard Nixon go around firing everybody, and that didn't work out too well. So, very simply, Article 2 would allow me to do it.
Article 2 of the Constitution outlines the powers of the presidency. And the president's defenders argue he cannot commit obstruction of justice while exercising those powers.
Listen to a world leader say he can do whatever he wants.
Then I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president, but I don't even talk about that.
Just did. Now, that was the language of a dictator, and that's why he shouldn't even talk like that. But it's not a fact. The United States Constitution does not grant the power to the president to do whatever he wants. That's why we have a system of checks and balances.
Yamiche, if you look at what he said, he may be ignorant of the Constitution. He may not fully understand what he's saying there, but I believe that he means what he's saying. He's shown a willingness to use executive action. He's shown a willingness to use national emergencies as negotiating tactics. He means what he says there yesterday.
He means what he says. He also has really proven this idea that he could do anything, including shooting somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it.
Look, the president has the constitutional authority to fire anybody in the executive branch. The Supreme Court has held that. On the other hand, it would have been very unwise politically, and it would have sounded like an admission of some kind of guilt.
I mean, Article 2 does lay out the executive powers, and they are broad, but it also has limitations in it. I think what happened here, and the reason Trump was, saying this, I'm a monarch, essentially, I can do whatever I want, is because Barr and maybe Giuliani at some point explained to him their view of why there's no obstruction in the Mueller report. No, that firing the FBI director and all that, that's okay, because you're allowed to do that. That's an executive power.
You see that? That's a stupid bitch.
And Trump probably was, half listening or heard what he wanted to hear, which was, oh, I can do anything I want. I can fire anybody out. Yeah.
Trump knows something his lawyers don't know and his advisors don't know, which is that he's guilty. Why do you think he's flipping out like this?
This is about the Constitution. This is about defending our democracy, which the president has said, Article 2 says I can do whatever I want. It doesn't. Article 2 makes him a monarch if he interprets it that way.
But I'll give you an example of this. Yesterday, Pelosi said that we've got to impeach Trump because he wants to be a monarch. He's saying Article 2 lets him do anything. You know what the context of that? He was on with George Stephanopoulos. I went back and looked at this. He was on with George Stephanopoulos. He was talking about firing Mueller. Stephanopoulos was trying to make him guilty for wanting to fire Mueller. Trump's answering, I didn't fire Mueller. I could have fired Mueller. Article 2, I can do anything. She takes it totally out of context and tries to make it into something that it isn't.
What the president has done is to say the three separate and co-equal branches of government, forget that. Article 2, it's about me. I can do that.
They have already a ton of evidence, and they're going to have more.
Well, the president could fire Mueller. Now, legally, he can absolutely do that. That's part of his constitutional prerogative and prerogative as president.
The president's actions have seriously violated the Constitution, especially when he says and acts upon the belief. Article 2 says I can do whatever I want. No. His wrongdoing strikes at the very heart of our Constitution.
Sorry, we're breaking protocol here. That's all right. That's the good thing about being president. I can do whatever I want.
And it's also outrageous to hear people say, well, this man thought he was a king because he said he could do anything he wanted, when they know that that statement was in the context of whether or not he could fire Mueller. And of course he could fire Mueller. He could fire or not fire Mueller. He could appoint a special prosecutor to invest Mueller and Weissman. I think he should have. But that's his prerogative, and he could have done anything about that he wanted. To take that out of context, he thinks he's a king. Let me tell you what a king is. A king is someone who says over 20 times, I can't do that. Congress has to change the law on immigration. And then he decides, you know what? I got a pen, I got a phone, I'll do whatever I want. And by golly, he does. He makes new law with a pen and a phone. Now that is more like a monarchy, not somebody saying they can fire a special prosecutor if they want to.
I am your voice.
Sorry, we're breaking protocol here. That's all right. That's the good thing about being president. I can do whatever I want.
First black press, now ain't that nice? I'm in the highest office, that's right now. I can do whatever I like.